Hi guys, welcome back to the Pageant Project. We are in the middle of crazy pageant season. There are Miss USA state pageants going on. There are Miss America state pageants going on. Miss Volunteer America is itself is going on, and it's crazy. It's hectic, and some of you may be having last minute panics, and that's okay. I wanted to drop in with a bit of a reminder today. And it's something I haven't spoken about for a while, and that's the importance of your mindset going into not only pageant week, but pageant prep itself. Now, last week, I was contracted to work with a young golf player over in the United States. Yes, golf player, not pageant girl, golf player. However, the grandmother who contracted me found out about me through my social media. Her daughter, as I understand, is a pageant girl, but she saw my stuff specifically around mindset and then sent me a voice note which went to my spam folder asking me, do I work with young athletes in the area of mindset? And I don't know if you know this about me. I was a former competitive tennis coach at an all-girls high school. I became the head coach, and I've worked in mindset because I'm a qualified life coach. And more than the qualification, psychology and mindset has always fascinated me. So I said yes, because yes is the answer. I didn't know what to expect, though. I play tennis. I don't play golf. That's not to say there are no similarities. Biomechanics are biomechanics. That being said, I have worked with athletes before, but I don't know anything about how to hit a golf ball. And so we had an initial consult, and it went great. But this was with the grandmother and the granddaughter present, and they were sitting on a couch somewhere in their house, as you expect. And then the consult went well, and then she contacted me saying, "Okay, can we do I suggested to her that if we're going to proceed, let's not do another session on the couch. I said, how about you take me out onto the golf course with you, doing video call, and I want to talk to your granddaughter. I want to talk to you whilst you are actually in situ, whilst you are actually hitting golf balls, because I think that's where I can make the biggest difference." And if you think about it, as with an athlete, if you really, really, I think, want to make a mindset breakthrough, the moment to do it is when you're in that moment of high anxiety or high panic when everything is going wrong. It's a lot easier to talk about it when you're away from the environment or you're sitting on a couch, but I don't think that's the most effective way to tackle it. So I said, take me out on the golf course or on the driving range, and whilst you're hitting some balls, let's talk. And so we did that. I will say it's a very odd experience for me to be over here in Sydney, Australia at 9 p.m. on a weeknight, and on the other side, it's 7 a.m. somewhere in, I think it was Indiana or somewhere, and I'm on a golf course, and it was a beautiful golf course. And I'm watching this 16-year-old smack golf balls left, right, and center a lot further than I could. But where there's a will, there's a way. So I dug in. I know what I know. I know about psychology. I have a lot of experience working with young women, specifically in sports, because of my tennis coaching and now pageant coaching. And so I got to work. And look, I don't want to go into the details of it, but put it this way, when she would make a mistake or when she hit a shot that wasn't the best shot she could hit, she would get frustrated, get angry. Now that frustration and anger would turn inward, and it was sort of that case where, yeah, you can have one bad shot. Anyone can have one bad shot, but you don't want to let that affect the rest of your shots. So you have one bad shot, that's fine, but don't mess up the next 4 or 5 shots because you're still thinking about that one bad shot that you had. So I suggested, look, I understand why you care, because golf to her was very important. And I said, I'm not going to tell you not to get frustrated or not to get angry, because those are normal emotions to feel when you screw something up. But I said, here's the thing. Is it serving you? Like, is it making your golf game better? And she said, no. So I said, okay, you get angry, you get frustrated in the moment. But after that moment, what I want you to try is getting curious rather than getting angry, because she was saying she got angry because she was trying to figure out, because she cared, but she was also trying to figure out how to do it right. So what did she do wrong to cause a mistake in the first place? And I said, look, that's a much better place to be. If you get curious and you direct your attention to how am I going to solve the problem rather than just getting angry about the fact that, oh my God, I missed another shot, I suck, etc., 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 that's going to be much more beneficial for your mindset. Sorry, jump scare. This guy was making noises in the background. If you know anything about cats, you know they know how to make a really annoying sound, and you need to shut them up, and I shut this one up by picking up. Anyway, we had that session. I had this session with this young golfer, and I didn't hear back for about a week or so I wasn't sure if what I had said landed, because our session kind of got cut, not short, because it was about 2 hours, but it got cut off because her phone was going flat, because it had run out of battery, because it'd been speaking for 2 hours. And then I got a message from the grandmother maybe a couple of days ago and said, so-and-so, so she played 36, like par 30, so 9 holes, right? Not the whole 18 holes, but 9 holes, and said she'd had her best performance. She'd lowered her best by six strokes. Sixth. On 9 holes. 6. Now, I don't know how much you know about golf. As I said, I don't know much. But when the par is 36 and you beat your previous best by 6 strokes, that's not small. That's not a fluke. That is a quantum jump. That's a quantum shift. And that's the sort of shift that really can only come when you've had some sort of psychological or mindset breakthrough. So I tell you that story to emphasize the importance of mindset and to tell you it's not just woo-woo or airy-fairy or, sitting in lotus position and finding your chakras. I mean, if you practice that, I say practice whatever you believe in. But there are some of us who go, I want to see the facts, right? Show me the science behind it. And that's why I lead with that story, because, hey, it works. And it was only after one conversation, 2 conversations, but, one on the couch, one in the actual situation. But the other thing was, I don't know anything about golf. I mean, and I'm not good at it. The only thing I know about golf is you whack the ball and it has to go in the hole. That's pretty much all I know. So it wasn't because, I'm some genius that I solved her golf stroke somehow. When it comes to interview, you might say to me, well, hey, that's golf, that's competitive sport, but a pageant interview is different. No, it's not. In fact, I would say pageant interview is probably even more psychological. It's one of the most psychological-based competitive events. Whether you consider it a sport or not, it's up to you, but it's certainly competitive because you're competing to win the title, right? But when it comes to psychology versus mechanics, so in golf, you have the mechanics. How do I swing? In tennis, you have the mechanics. How do I swing? How do I move my feet? How do I get faster, stronger, etc.? And then the psychology of things like how do I handle pressure, etc., etc. When it comes to interview, sure, there are some mechanics, things like storytelling, things how to structure your answer, how to keep it on point. But psychology is even bigger because so much of it is body language, non-verbals, knowing how to read a room, which I guess you could argue is rapport. But I mentioned this a few months ago, and I wanted to talk about this again today because I haven't talked about the importance of mindset for a while, and I don't want you to get messed up. I talk a lot about mechanics because very often when you guys ask me a question, it's about mechanics, like how do I answer without sounding like a robot? But my answer almost always has something to do, not always completely to do, but almost always something to do with the psychology behind it. And so when you go into that room, before you go in, I want you to start treating yourself like a professional athlete. Because if we understand, if you accept that, yes, psychology is important, getting myself into that right mindset before I walk in that interview, if you buy that that's important, the next sensible question is, well, how do I actually do it? Now, before you walk in a room, right, I want you to get in this habit of, well, you tell me, what does an athlete do before they compete? They warm up. Okay, now, if you know anything about how, look, I know tennis, right? It's not just the physically warming up. A lot of them will also whack their headphones on and listen to their pump-up tracks, whatever it is. I mean, for you, it might be Taylor Swift. For someone else, it might be death metal. Whatever gets you going, right? So if before you go into that interview room, rather than sitting on the couch outside the hallway and watching all your competitors go in and come out, and then sometimes either celebrating or breaking down into tears and letting it get in your head, I'd much rather if you can't go for a walk because let's say you need to be there so that you're there when they call your name, I would at the very least say stand up and pace walk up and down the hallway. Get your blood flowing. You're not just sitting there. Very often it's an air-conditioned room. You're not just sitting there freezing. And whilst you're walking up and down the room, up and down the hallway, again, I prefer you to be outside in the sun, but if you can't do that, whatever. But have some tunes going on in your head if you like music, so that you can get pumped up. And even if you don't play music, I'd recommend doing it so that people don't talk to you. Because most people, to get in a competitive zone, it's better that they're just a bit alone and they have time to focus in on what it is they have to do. Remember, this is a highly competitive mindset. You're about to go in the interview room to interview for basically your dream job, which is a title, right? So that's how I would warm up. And I want you to practice doing that even before you do a mock interview. Practice getting into the right mindset, because your mindset affects all the answers that you give. I don't want the first time you try to embrace the importance of mindset to be when you're competing, because you wouldn't practice only the day before your competition with your walk or with your interview answers. So I don't want you to do that with your mindset either. I want you to incorporate the mindset warming up and incorporate a mindset practice, which I will give you in a sec, as part of your ongoing daily routine. So I hope that makes sense. So before you go in the interview room, I want you moving to keep the blood flowing, just like you wouldn't compete in a professional sport without warming up. I don't want you to go in the interview room. And this is another thing that people often say is like, oh, that was my first or second answer, and so I wasn't warmed up yet. If you have a 2.5 minute, 3 minute interview, you don't have the luxury of using your first 2 questions to warm up or your first question to warm up. You need to hit the ground running, which is why you're up and about, you're walking to get the blood flowing, you're listening to your tunes. The other thing I would like you to do, maybe when you've listened to your tunes for a bit, or you can alternate this with listening to your tunes, get on your chat GPT or get on the phone with someone who can practice interview questions with you. Right? And it doesn't really matter what the interview questions are. You just want to get your brain warmed up so it's ready to answer questions. Again, I don't want you going in the interview room and having to use your first 2 questions to warm up. You don't have that luxury. You want to hit the ground running. Now, assuming you've done what I said. So you've got the blood flowing, you've been listening to your pump up tracks, you've been practicing a few questions, you walk in that room, and guess what? It's all non-verbals, isn't it? You haven't had time to say anything yet. No one's asked you a question yet. But you walk in, your shoulders are back, you're confident, you're happy, you're smiling. If it's appropriate, you shake the judge's hands, you introduce yourself, whatever it is. But there's a certain vibe, there's a certain air, you know it. There are some people when they walk in the room, you know, that person, you might say, oh, she's a threat, right? Or you might say that person, I can see that she's just title holder material. Sometimes you get told this in hindsight, and, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. But it's undeniable that there are certain people, when they walk in the room, you know they could walk away with a title. On the flip side, you know, if we're being honest, that there are some people who walk in the room and you know they don't really have a chance. And it's not because of the way they look or anything like that. It's not because of their wardrobe. There's an air of confidence. There's a body language that's not verbal, and it's just the way they carry themselves. Now, you may not buy that because you may not have studied it quite as much as I have, or you may not know how to language it, or maybe you just don't believe it. But when you look at someone, you can immediately, let's say, give them a score out of 10 for how likely it is you think they're going to walk away as a title holder. And this is before you've spoken to them or asked them anything or seen their walk. So we're all inherent experts at body language. Why? Because we needed to be when we were cave people, right? You need to sort of be able to tell whether someone's your enemy or your friend or your enemy. And we do that through body language, right? And so you can tell. And guess what? The judges can tell. And so it's so important that you got your psychology and your mindset handled, not only for interview, but for the entire pageant week, if it's that long, or the pageant weekend. And it's the psychology. It's not the mechanics so much. You want to, don't get me wrong, the mechanics matter, like how you walk matters, but you want to practice those so much that you don't have to think about them, that you could do them backwards in your sleep. And then really when you get there, focus on staying in the right mindset, having your psychology handled so that you can perform at the best of your abilities. Because there are far too many of you who, when you come back from your pageant, you go, oh, I could have done better if only. I wish I could have been more confident. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have said that. And that's the big point. I want you, before you compete, to get into that peak state, to get into that competitive mindset so that you can do your best. So even if you walk away and you don't win, you go, you know what? I gave it my best and it just wasn't meant to be. But sometimes when you don't handle your mindset, especially, that's not the case. You didn't do the best walk possible. You didn't give the best answers possible. And the worst feeling in the world, I think, is you nailed it in practice, but then you screwed it up during the real thing. And that's not a mechanics issue, is it? Because if you can do it in practice, you can do it. It's the psychology or the mindset that makes the difference. So how do you practice mindset? I've already said, okay, before you go in the interview room, get the blood flowing, pacing. I suggest sunlight if you can, but I know you probably have to be right outside the door. But listen to tunes, practice some questions as warm-up. But if you want a shortcut for how to just practice this and make your mindset stronger in the same way that you go to the gym to make your body stronger, I'll give a shout out to Paige for this. I call her Paige, like Goner Senior, Paige Goner, because she sent me this clip from Tony Robbins. And if you don't know, Tony Robbins is the person I studied my life coaching under, and I highly recommend if you ever get a chance to hear the guy speak, go. That's all I'll say. But she sent me one of his clips, and he said one of the most fundamental things that he attributes his success in life on. He's wildly successful. But one of the big things he attributes that success to is being willing to do the uncomfortable things. Being willing to do the uncomfortable things. Now, when it comes down to this discussion that we're having here, if you think of doing something that would be good for your interview prep or good for your pageant prep and is uncomfortable, this is training your nervous system to deal with stress or to deal with anxiety, to deal with that competitive pressure. It's like when I said about the golf story. I wanted to chat to my client, to this young girl, when she was hitting golf balls and when she was actually missing some. That's when I wanted to speak to her, not when she was sitting on the couch and there was no stress. So do something every day if you can. Get something into your daily practice that is uncomfortable so you learn to deal with these sort of competitive pressures. And one thing that I will suggest doing, cold ice plunges or ice baths or a cold shower, right? If you don't want to take it too far, and some people apparently may have a negative reaction. If you're not careful, yes, it can go badly because it is ice water. I mean, mind you, I've had no problems with it whatsoever, but that's just me. But even just a cold shower. So you have your normal shower, but maybe for the last 30 seconds, you turn the hot water off, you turn it to cold, and you get that blast of cold water. I will tell you, okay, number one, it never gets comfortable. After about 30 seconds, it becomes weirdly okay. But I mean, that first shock when the cold water hits your skin, you never like that. It doesn't matter how many times you do it, you never like it. That's number one. Number two, also, it's impossible to be in a bad mood when you're in cold water. It just makes you so present in your body, you're completely focused. And when you get out, you're jazzed, you're vibed, you're ready to go. But my point is, that's a very easy thing that you can incorporate into your daily practice, just to train your mindset to go, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to quibble about it. I'm not going to go, oh, I don't really know how to do it safely. Because there's a lot of this sort of humming and hawing when you want to sort of rationalize avoiding doing something. And the reason that you do these uncomfortable things is to get in the habit of deciding, I'm doing this, right? I might not know how to do it, but I'm committed and I've resolved that I'm going to do this and that I'm resourceful enough to find out how to do it. If I can't find a way, I'll make a way. And the easiest way to practice that, as silly as it sounds, do something uncomfortable, have a cold shower, right? You don't have to have the whole thing as a cold shower. As I said, you can have your normal shower and then 30 seconds cold water at the end. If you're more adventurous, jump in a pool, jump in a lake. I have a plunge pool outside. It's an inflatable thing. You fill it with a little bit of water, like halfway up, and then you get these giant ice cubes, you put it in, and you don't have to do it every day. I mean, cool if you do, but the point is you're training yourself to do something that's uncomfortable so that when the stress of a competitive situation comes up, guess what? It's just like you go to the gym And as you lift those weights, what do you notice? You get stronger. How do you know? Because the weights you're lifting get heavier. Or you can do more reps. Or your form gets better. Or all of the above. I want you to take the same mindset to your mindset or to your psychology. And the way you practice it, the gym for your mind is doing those uncomfortable things. And so whether you incorporate some sort of ice bath or a cold shower into your daily routine, maybe it's waking up at 6 a.m. every day. Maybe it's swearing off the energy drinks and coffee. Not from a judgment point of it's bad for you, although I think it's hard to argue that it's good for you, but just that discipline of doing something that's uncomfortable, whatever that means for you. Another one that you could do that I know makes a lot of you panic, go live on your Instagram. Now, I don't know how much you know about going live on your Instagram, but you don't have to keep it once it's done. You can discard it. So no one will ever know that it existed except the people who tuned in, and maybe no one tunes in. But the number of you who freak out when I say you got to go live and you're just going to go live for 2 minutes and talk about whatever you want and you won't do it, that's uncomfortable. It's safe. It doesn't have the danger of you freezing to death, unlike an ice bath. And yet that very fact, it makes you panic and it raises your blood pressure and your heart rate starts pumping. And the fact is, probably only 1 or 2 people maybe will see it, right? I mean, we're all so busy in our daily lives. The mistake is to think everyone's paying attention to us when the secret is everyone's actually paying attention to themselves. But that is also a very close energy to the nerves you're going to feel when you're doing your on-stage question or your interview, isn't it? Because you're having to communicate. So that's another thing you could incorporate into your daily practice. Go live for a minute or 2 minutes a day. I mean, you can go live and just sit there in stunned silence if you want. Just going live and then deleting it. No one needs to see it. Just go live and say, hey, it's Adrian, or hey, it's Paige, or hey, whatever it is. And here I am doing absolutely nothing, but I'm just, getting ready for whatever it is. And I'm here live. If you have any questions, ask me. Getting used to that level of, oh my God, right? And as I said, the heart rate pumping, as you do it more and more, what's going to happen? Just like when you go to the gym and you're able to lift heavy weights, heavier and heavier weights, or run faster and faster times, as you do this practice of having a cold shower or going live on an Instagram, you'll find, hey, what bothered me before doesn't really bother me as much now. So when you're doing the cold plunge, yes, it's uncomfortable when you go in it still. Like, as I said, you never look forward to it, at least I don't. But you kind of know that, hey, this uncomfortable feeling I'm having, it's not life or death. And I know that if I stick it out for 30 seconds, which is not long, then it's fine. It's going to go okay. In fact, it'll be better than okay. I'll feel great at the end. Or after you go live a few times, you'll get more comfortable, maybe turning that on and really not having a formulated idea of what you want to say. You'll get more comfortable at maybe seeing who jumps on, or if someone sends you a question, more comfortable at dealing with that. And so you're training your nervous system to get stronger, just like you would train your body to get stronger. But when your body gets stronger, you lift heavier weights or you run faster. When your nervous system gets stronger, you're able to deal with stress more easily. And so now when you go into that interview room, what would have stressed you out before and what probably is freaking everyone else out around you, you're looking around going, I don't know why all of you are freaking out, because I'm actually excited to do this. And I'm not saying that as a cute mantra. I'm saying that's my lived experience. I've done so many interviews now, hundreds of them, thousands of hours spent in front of this webcam talking to people from all around the world. I don't get nervous before an interview because I've done it so much. I know it's not life or death, but that's the sort of practice. I hope you're getting this. This is a practice I want you to get for your mindset, is to do something that's uncomfortable so you train your nervous system to be resilient. Just like you train your body to be stronger, your physical body to be stronger and faster, you're training your nervous system to deal with stress better so that you can do your best when pressure hits whilst all your competition is crumbling. Now, to be completely fair, what you also notice is, as I said, I don't get nervous doing interviews anymore. So for me, doing an interview isn't going to count because it doesn't make me uncomfortable. So when I'm saying this, if doing an ice bath is something that you've been doing for the last 10 years of your life, it probably won't work for you because it doesn't really push you to be uncomfortable. If you're someone who goes live every day, it might make you a bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but you're probably, hopefully, very used to it. So you need to find something. I'm not saying find something that's bad for you. Find something that's productive for you and something that would be good for your pageant prep. But find something that you've always kind of thought, yeah, I really should do that, but it's just made you uncomfortable. Maybe it's made you a bit fearful for whatever reason. And do a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes of it every day as a way of training your nervous system, your psychology, your mindset, your resilience, your confidence in exactly the same way that you would train your physical body. Because I don't know any of you right now who are preparing for your upcoming pageant who are not hitting the gym a lot. You're preparing your physical body because you know how important it is. I'm here to tell you, your mindset, your fitness in your head, your mental fitness is just as important as your physical fitness, if not even more so. But what you will also notice is that the two of them are very intricately linked. The stronger you get in your body, the easier it is to be strong in your mind. The stronger you get in your mind, the easier it is to be strong in your body. Like if you're strong in your mind, you got the resilience, you got the discipline, you got the will, you don't have a problem getting to the gym at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. and working out. So those two work hand in hand. Just do me a favor and make sure you're not the sort of person who works on her body, works on her walk, works on all the techniques of answering, but then doesn't do any of the mindset work. Because I'm here to tell you, from a competitive mindset, like I worked with my young golfing client, the solution, right, knocking 6 shots off her best, it had nothing to do with mechanics. It had everything to do with psychology. And that sort of lightning jump in improvement doesn't generally happen from mechanics. It generally happens from a breakthrough up here. As I said, going from feeling angry and frustrated to getting curious. Or maybe your giant mindset, your quantum leap will be, you know what? Interview is not about delivering the perfect answer or trying to remember my memorized script. Maybe it's about actually sitting there, listening to the question, understanding the question, and then answering the question, rather than trying to think, oh my God, what's my recited line that best fits this question? Which, by the way, if you do that, is a perfect way for you to sound like a robot. Because you're not answering the question, you're delivering a rehearsed pitch. And so I hope you get this. If you've listened this far, you probably do. But mindset and psychology is just as important as the mechanics. I frankly believe that it's more important, at least once you've mastered the basics of the basic mechanics. So if you're on the tennis court and you don't know how to hold a racket, of course I need to coach you through that. But what you find is that the basic level of mechanics, actually, it doesn't take that long to learn. After that, the biggest improvements come from the psychology. And there are a lot of people out there who have great mechanics, but a lousy psychology, and you've never heard of them because they always crumbled under pressure. I don't want you to be, in tennis we used to call them like practice court players, which meant they were great on the practice court when no one was watching, when no one was keeping score and there was no pressure. Then there were those elite few who seemed to almost do better the harder or the stronger the pressure got. And I want you to be that person. Because then the gift you give yourself when you get into that interview room, when you get onto that stage, when all your, competitors, I know they're not your competitors, but they are your competitors, right? You love them more, but they're your competitors. When they're all freaking out, oh my God, the stage is a bit narrower than I thought. Oh my God, we're having a 5-minute interview when I thought it was a 3-minute interview. I want you to be the calm in the middle of the storm and go, I'm sorry, I'm actually really excited. No, I'm not panicking. Guys, you don't need to be panicked. Don't buy into that. But it's psychology first. It's psychology more so than mechanics, because I got to believe if you've listened to me this far and if you've known me for any period of time, you probably know at least the basics of how to walk, how to talk. Of course, you can always get better at those things. I'm not denying that. But you've probably got a solid grasp on your fundamentals in the area of mechanics. Start focusing on your psychology, because as my mentor said, 80% of success is psychology, 20% is mechanics. You can quibble on the exact percentages, and maybe it's different from sport to pageantry to business, but don't overlook psychology. Don't be a practice court player. Don't be a practice room interviewer. Be the sort of person who, under pressure, performs at her best. And I think, as I suggested, the best way to do it before you go in, do that warm-up, as I said, but as an ongoing practice, as you're preparing for your pageant, start incorporating some element of do the uncomfortable thing. I think that's the best and easiest way to train your nervous system to deal with that pressure. So that next time you hit that interview room or the pageant stage, you do your best. You don't have to think, oh my God, I did so well in practice, but I completely flubbed on stage. I want that to be a thing of the past. So, any questions about any of this? Let me know. If you know me, you know I love talking about psychology. It's kind of my thing. I love nerding out about it. Mindset and almost all my coaching, even if someone comes for interview coaching, it's almost always mindset. Even if it's walking coaching or anything like that, which I do occasionally, it's more about the confidence or the posture. It's not about did she nail that turn, okay? And just like with my golfing client, it wasn't about her swing. It was about going from being angry and frustrated to being curious about how she could fix it. So, any questions, let me know. You know where to reach me. Have an amazing week. And if you're competing in the next couple of months, or if you've just competed, I hope it went well. If you just competed. If you're about to compete, I hope it goes well. And a reminder, I'm going to be over stateside in August for Miss USA. So if you're there in Miami at that time, love to catch up. Let me know.